Safety precautions if there is an incident. So if you do have a crash, the first thing you want to think about is calling 911. So err on the side of caution with that. And if you're coordinating a crash, just make sure that if you're not calling 911 yourself, that you point to someone and say, "Hey, you call 911," so that there's the chance that someone's like, "Someone called 911," and no one does it. So make sure someone actually does it. All right, next order of business. Do not move the victim if they're on the ground. So if they jump up and they're okay, sure, but generally you don't want to move them, especially their head and neck. So make sure that they just stay down. If they are in the roadway, you want to grab at least one person to help redirect traffic. So just make sure that cars aren't getting too close. What else? So if there is a car involved, make sure that, hopefully they stop. Make sure you get their information. So get things like their name, their address, telephone number, driver's license, the license plate number. And yes, make sure that you take pictures. If you think of it, that's very helpful in case, God forbid, someone needs to make a report, there's, someone at fault. So take pictures of the accident. Let's see. Get information about the car. So if there's the make of the car, the model, the insurance company, things like that. Get their policy number. And as far as head injuries, do what you can to try to assess, while you're waiting for the EMT to get there. Ask them if they hit their head. You can ask them what day of the week it is, and that can you can start to tell if they're confused. So that's information that you could relay to the EMT. Look at their helmet. If you're able to see their helmet or their face, if they have any markings and there's evidence that they've hit their head, leave the helmet on them. I'm getting some. Yeah, please shout it out if you have good advice. And unfortunately, a few of us have probably seen this happen. So, making sure that you don't move them and their head and neck is very important. I think that's all I have for a crash. One other piece of information is that if you are a ride leader and there's a crash on your ride, make sure you report that back to Potomac Peddlers for our awareness. We try to understand what exactly happened so that we can develop our ride leader rules so that things like that don't happen again. So just make sure you let us know what happened. Question.
Is there a report form, or should we just approach another officer, or
Is there?
We don't have a specific form, but in the ride leader guidelines, there's a list of items. And so, yes, it'd be good to. The reason that reporting it within the day to the XCOM, somebody on the XCOM, is that the club has had this experience. It can devolve into legal issues and liability, and the club needs to have a write down of what the incident was, and the club leader is responsible for providing that. So check that list and be ready to provide that information. We don't have a form. As long as you're covering those pieces of information in an email to the president or another member of the XCOM, we're covered.
Your camera out your phone is your best friend. You get to picture the license plate, license, car, the person's helmet, everything, as many things as possible, and figure out try to save it on your phone or type it in or whatever.
I'm going to repeat just for the people online. So Jim said that use your phone camera so you can take pictures of things like the helmet, the car, the scene of the accident, write stuff down. So definitely pull that out and use that. Any other questions on safety? The question was if the victim is resistant to calling 911, they're walking around, they seem like they're fine. My advice is to maybe talk amongst yourselves as those who witnessed it and use your best judgment, because sometimes the adrenaline can make people feel like they're okay, or maybe they're embarrassed. There's multiple reasons why they might not want you to call. So if you and others who witnessed it kind of in your best judgment think that it's reasonably likely that they have an injury, then err on the side of caution. That's my advice.
It's more than erring on the side of caution. There's certain decisions that you as a ride leader don't want to be making, and if you're not trained as an EMS, you don't want to be making EMS types of decisions. People will resist, but keep in mind that a concussion and a brain bleed are not visible, and they may not show up as an issue until an hour later. And so don't be the one making the wrong decision for a resistant person. Call 911. Have the EMS come. Have them be the one that the crash victim is dealing with. And they can say no at that point, but that is the EMS's responsibility and not yours. Keep in mind that as part of the club insurance policy, there's an excess medical cost coverage of every rider member who signed a waiver. It comes into effect after any other medical policy is paid out. So if the individual has a medical policy that does not cover ambulance rides, then the club's excess insurance, medical insurance policy will cover that insurance ride after a deductible. The deductible is $250. So I've got the personal experience of a guy I was riding across country with, crashed, hit his head, didn't want to go to the hospital. We just left a friend's house. We went back to the house. We were really trying to get him to the hospital, but he was 2 days from finishing the cross country. 2 hours later, he was in the emergency room with a brain bleed. And so call 911, let EMS make the decision.
Yeah.
Check up on the people later. If somebody goes down in your ride, they see your face, just check in on them on the afternoon. After the ride, make sure they're okay. But check in on somebody who couldn't get to them until the next day because they were in the hospital.
Yeah. Just to repeat, Jim's saying to check in on people later if they've been in a crash. Can I end on a more positive note? I was going to just say is there another question? Sorry, I missed you.
I'm remembering.
Say again?
The 2 times I was on a ride, I was the crash. I was the leader and I was running. Did everybody have somebody who was leading?
Yeah, in the case where you are the ride leader and you crash, I think it's a great idea to have a co-leader. Do we require that as a club?
No.
We don't require
You
it,
would ask somebody to step up.
but yeah, definitely, have someone in mind that could step up in case you need help with something or you crash. Yeah. Okay, so I was gonna just move to a more positive note, and I was just gonna give my advice as a ride leader. I'm still relatively new to it, but I was gonna say my number one piece of advice is just try to make people feel like they're welcome to the ride. And we kind of already went over it, but if it is a no drop ride, definitely stay back. Ask people who are new what their names are, chat with them, socialize with them. We want people to feel welcome at our rides. So my piece of advice is to definitely try to, socialize and talk to people. But yeah, I think that's it.